As parts of Interstate 81 reach the end of their useful life, government officials have spent the last several years coming up with a long-term solution. After ruling out a tunnel, the New York State Department of Transportation has narrowed the search down to two options: the viaduct, with an estimated cost of $1.7 billion, and the community grid at $1.3 billion. The viaduct would be a rebuilding and a lane expansion of the current stretch of the highway through the city. The community grid would mean tearing down the current viaduct and building a boulevard-style street in its place. Now, the question of the highway begins right over here, this stretch of 81, where it meets 690 and continues past the hospital and past the University Hill. Now, if they do build the community grid option, it will go right there on Almond Street, and traffic will be redirected through 690 East and onto 481, which will be formally renamed 81. And earlier today, Mayor Ben Walsh, who supports the community grid solution, was part of the Future Infrastructures panel in Slocum Hall. Talking Points analyst Gilad Malamed had the chance to speak with him at the event.
Something that was emphasized at the panel a lot was that something has to happen, regardless of what it is. And, you know, the Department of Transit, they started this planning in 2005. When do you think the next step will happen? What will that next step be, and what's the timeline for this getting finished?
Yeah, the time frame is, it's been hard to pin down, but what we know now with the state's most recent decision to include the tunnel option in the draft environmental impact statement, they've said it's going to be at least a year before the DEIS is released. So we have that as kind of our next benchmark, and then from the DEIS there will be a public comment period before the final environmental impact statement is released. So we're still at least a couple years away, but as we discussed tonight, I think we're all anxious to get beyond the decision of what to do and to our earlier point, really start to focus on how we do it, because that's what's really going to have the lasting impact on the region.
You can watch the full-length interview at CitrusTV.com. Josh?